Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty and everlasting God, who presides over all things in heaven and earth, come and preside over these deliberations, so that those that make the decisions may be guided by your wisdom.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the February 11th work session, and followed by the voting session for Wilkes-Barre City Council. For the people who are watching, this is a work session first where we go over the materials that are on our agenda. The public may be calling in at the second half of our meeting, and I will let you know when that time is. On City Council's agenda for this evening is only one item. It's the second and final reading for File Council number 3 of 2021, an ordinance amending Article 4 of Chapter 12 of the City of Wilkes-Barre Code of Ordinances entitled Recycling. This is the dual stream recycling. Is there any comments or questions on that? Oh, okay. Mr. Mayor?
Good evening.
Evening.
I know Comcast is calling in. Are they on the line, Kathy?
Yeah,
Okay. So, first ordinance is adopting a cable franchise agreement with Comcast, Colorado, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, LLC, to install, operate, and maintain a cable television system, together with other services, prescribing terms and conditions, and other legal requirements. What we're doing is, with your permission, we'd like to bring another provider in for cable services. Comcast, they have a lot of good feedback we've received from people in other areas where they are currently at. So we thought it's another franchise. We'll still have Service Electric, but now it gives the people in Wilkes-Barre a choice of a second provider. They are on the phone tonight, so if you have any questions, I'd like to start with that, if you don't mind, sir.
Sure.
And then we can go from there. Is that okay, Tony?
Yep, that's quite
Okay, so
fine.
they are on the line now?
So does
Anyone
anyone have
have
any?
any questions?
Yes, Mr. Barrett.
I know you spoke briefly about this before, Mayor, when you described it, but this is a wireless type,
No, this is a cable type bill,
this cable.
but I'll give you an example. I have Service Electric now. I have wireless inside my house that I can use the internet with.
Sure.
So it's the same thing, it's cable, but it has the capabilities in your house to be wired. So maybe if someone from Comcast wants to address that. Did you hear the question? Are they on, Kathy?
Excuse me.
Yes, are you there?
Yes, my name's Jen Fries. I'm with Comcast. I cannot understand anything that's being said. It's very muffled.
Okay.
Probably has to do with the masks and everything else, but my question is, are we going to be using cables throughout the city and all those other types of devices similar to the traditional cable network, or is this something different?
Are you able to hear him?
No,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I can, Jen, hi, my name is Jay Meniscus. I think I heard the question was it going to be a traditional cable network? So if that was the question, yeah, yes and no. So I don't consider our network to be traditional. So we have something called fiber deep. So we build a fiber architecture that gets fiber closer to the house, and then we serve with coax. So yes and no. It's a cable network, but it's not like you would see with any other vendor around here. It's fiber, what we call fiber deep. We'll be getting fiber closer to the home. Does that answer the question? I think I heard.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If I have one quick one. Is this gonna, oh, sorry, Beth.
No, go ahead.
Will this be spread throughout the whole city?
Repeat the question so they can hear it.
The question is, will this be provided throughout the whole city?
Yes. Yes, our plan is to provide throughout the whole city, yes.
Excellent, thank you.
This is more so for the
Thank you.
administration. Would this open the door for other cable providers to come into the city?
Yeah, Beth, what we're going to do is, it's a franchise, like any other franchise, so we welcome franchises to come in. So it's equal opportunity. Just like we have Service Electric now, we'll have Comcast. And if a third provider, we did talk to another provider, but at this time, it's not the right time for them, but we did talk to a third provider. So we're open to have competition, and if other people want to come in, you know, with your approval, I think it's a good thing.
Okay, thank you.
My understanding is franchises such as these have to be non-exclusive by law.
Okay, thank you.
And they, by the way, Comcast will pay the same fee to the city
Okay,
that Service Electric is.
that was my next question. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Could you ask her, there is one aspect, would you ask the representative that might be of some interest in council, because they have this reach out for their internet system that might, for underprivileged and kids and things like that, could you ask her about that? She'll fill it in.
What's it called?
It's a outreach, outreach by Comcast to provide central, internet service for like the kids who are studying virtually. They
Can
don't
you
have
explain
availability.
the outreach program for kids?
Sure. If it's okay with council, I'd like to give a little bit of an overview, and then maybe it will address some of the questions that you have. Is that okay?
Sure.
Sure.
Well, I did want to say thank you for having us this evening. We would have chosen to come in person if that was at all possible. On the line with me tonight, my name's Jen Fries. I'm a manager of government affairs, and on the phone with me is Jay Meniscus, who is my director of construction, and Michael Taylor, who's the director of our business development. And we are super excited for this opportunity to expand our presence in Northeast Pennsylvania. We've been given a one-time opportunity to extend our services in your area, and currently we're working with Courtdale Borough, Pringle Borough, Larksville Borough, and Wilkes-Barre Township, along with the city. And Comcast wants to be a part of your community. We have employees that live there and work there, and, you know, just yesterday we opened up our newest store right next door to you in Plains Township on Highway 315. Now, you had asked about what we have for the students in your community. We always like to say not only do we have great products and service, but we want to support and strengthen the neighborhoods in which we serve, which in turn are the backbones of the community. And this can be done through helping to solve the digital divide. And that is, we have Internet Essentials, which is probably something similar to what you have with Service Electric. It's $9.95 a month for low-income families, and those families can have any one of 10 ways to qualify if they get SNAP, anything through the Department of Human Services. If they get SNAP, TANF, free or reduced lunches, that's one way we can help serve your students. Another way, we have an Internet Essential Partnership Program where a school district or possibly an education foundation can help cover the Internet Essentials cost for students. We're doing that all over the Commonwealth. I'm doing it right now in Reading with the Reading School District, and they've signed up over 350 kids. And we also have Comcast Lift Zones, where we're working with nonprofits and community partners, where we are putting 1 gig of service in these, we like to call them educational hubs, where, you know, students who have to learn virtually can go to a YMCA or a community center, and they can be there all day in a safe and secure atmosphere to do their homework or get online virtually. It's also a great help for a lot of people who, like myself, need to work from home but don't have great connectivity. They could go to this lift zone and do their work from home from there as well. And I've already been in contact with the Wilkes-Barre YMCA for a possible lift zone in your community. And if we would secure a franchise with the city, we can work with Jay and his construction team so that they will know right away when they're passing the YMCA what they need to do to get them stood up and get the service that they need for your students. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I do have just one quick question, if you don't mind. If the ordinance passes, how quickly do you think you'll be up and running?
How quickly do you think you can be up and running?
So were we talking about to the lift zone or to generally to the whole market? I'm sorry, again, I have a hard time hearing.
Just generally.
Generally.
Yeah, so we think the construction could take about a year and a half, and the way it works is we'll do a lot of attaching to PP&L's poles. So the way that process works is we have to file applications with PP&L to get on their poles, and they would have to make room for us. So there's a little bit of time involved to do that, and we would follow along with construction to get those poles. And you know, the plan would be to be turning up homes and businesses as we pass them. So some could be starting to be turned up by the summertime, and some, as we would continue through the construction, would go into next year. You know, we'd want to do it as quickly as we could, though. So, but we'd be following PPL on making room for us on their poles in most cases.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did that answer the question, or was there?
Yes.
Can I explain any more, or was that good?
No, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
We good? Any other questions? Good. Well, thank you, Comcast, for being on the line.
There's no further questions.
Thank you.
Continue.
Before I get to the rest of the items, just a couple of things. We did demolish 101, 103 Westminster Street today. That came down really quickly. It was in bad shape. It really was. So that was demolished today. It was bid out to the lowest bidder that was able to do the job, and they did a great job.
Mayor, I was there today, and yeah, right now it's down completely. That's amazing. That was a big building.
So what our plan is to clean that lot, level it off. It'll go on our website for sale like the other, like we did Beth and Northampton Street. And hopefully someone will pick that up, put it back on the tax rolls. And then we have another house that we'll be doing next, is another really terrible house that's on Sanborn Street. So we're trying to address some of the worst houses, and then we have a blight remediation plan that we put together, and it's throughout different parts of the city. But these are some of the worst places, so we did tear that down today. Also, I'm hoping that you're going to, vote on the dual stream in a positive way tonight. It's going to be a big benefit to the city. I'd like to thank you in advance, if you are going to vote that way. If you're not, I won't thank you, but I'll thank you anyway. And secondly, I know Bill Barrett, Mike, they were part of this, the initial stages of this. We had meetings with Mr. Solomon and other things, so I want to thank you both for that also. But I'm hoping that you see that this is the value here, okay? And one of those things that we can move on and really make the city better. If you don't mind, I'll start going into the rest
Please
of
do.
it. Okay. Proclaiming the month of April 2021. It's Fair Housing Month. I believe this is a yearly thing that we do every year. So once again, appointing Zelenkoff, Axelrod LLC to conduct the audit of the city's general purpose financial statements and single audit for the year ending December 31st, 2020 for a fee of $59,500. We did put a solicitation out a few years ago. They came out the lowest bidder, but they do a great job. They did the audit last year, and hopefully, Darren, you were happy with what they did. So based on their experience with the city and the job that they did last year, we're asking for approval to do that again. Authorizing the proper city officials to take any and all actions related to the master license agreement for small wireless communication facilities with Northeast Pennsylvania SAMHSA Limited Partnership Verizon Wireless. This is introducing 5G wireless into the city of Wilkes-Barre. Benefits there are numerous. We actually have representatives from Verizon here. If you like, I can bring them in if there's any questions you may have about this. But this will also be a moneymaker for the city of Wilkes-Barre. There's revenue that's associated to starting this program up, but it's taking our system to the next level that everyone's going to be going to 5G. So if you have any questions, I'll let the folks come in and they can.
I think I just want to stand up and hear the public and get out of the way there with the council any questions they want to ask.
Good evening, Council. Attorney Rich Williams. I am the attorney for Verizon Wireless. As the mayor had indicated, we are happy to answer any questions you might have relative to the proposal here this evening. Specifically, there are two items with respect to an ordinance that we proposed as well as the master lease agreement. But as the mayor indicated, this is kind of the first step in bringing 5G into the city and enhanced wireless service. And certainly we have Claire DiNardo and Brian Grievous who are here to answer any questions that you might have relative to what we're proposing.
Sure. Are there any questions from my colleagues?
I do. I have just a quick question. Will it be throughout the entire city?
The way that the Verizon Wireless will do with the rollout eventually will be throughout the entire city. Let me have Claire just stand up. Claire, I just want to address what's being proposed right off the bat as we get started and as we work through the project.
Yes, it will be. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Is that better? Okay. It will be throughout the city, but it will be in groups of 50 to 100 at a time. So it will take us a few years to build the whole city, but we would start with a group of 50 immediately and then work our way out from the core out.
Tony,
Okay, thank you.
Tony, I have one quick
Yep,
one.
go ahead.
Is this something that's, what will it cost for the residents?
There is no charge to the residents.
Okay.
It would be, it's not even something that they need to switch to. If their devices are not 5G capable, then they won't be able to set up on that signal. But there's no extra charge for that service.
Okay.
There is revenue for the city of Wilkes-Barre by converting this over. Would you like to explain the revenue sources for the city?
Yes, and I will let Mr. Williams discuss that with you, but there is a reoccurring fee for each site that we use because poles that we use are in the city's public right-of-way. So the equipment will be attached to municipal city poles, PPL poles, and Verizon landline poles. And then,
You have a copy right there. It shows the box that's on the second page. Not very good to see there.
So this is basically an upgrade.
yeah. Yeah, so we currently have, 4G services throughout the area. 5G applications allow for more robust speeds and applications for phones and other devices, iPads, laptops, and things like that the former generations of the technology don't allow for. So as those applications expand, the speeds that are needed to provide those applications are going to be through the 5G network.
Thank you.
And I'll just answer the mayor's question and relative to the fees that would be payable by Verizon Wireless to the city. So there are fees for what they call recurring fees and non-recurring fees. A recurring fee is something that's paid annually by Verizon Wireless to the city for each location. So under FCC rule, Verizon Wireless can pay $270 to the city for every single small cell location. And what Verizon Wireless has agreed to do in this circumstance is to pay that $270 to the city for any location, whether it be a city pole, a PPL pole, or a Verizon pole. So for any pole where Verizon Wireless is attaching its antennas under this project, the city will receive $270 annually, essentially on a recurring basis. Then under the ordinance which is being proposed, there are non-recurring fees. If an application is filed by Verizon Wireless for one of these sites, it's $100. But if Verizon Wireless is installing a new pole, as opposed to just attaching its antennas to a, let's say, a traffic signal, there's a fee of $1,000. So in addition to the $270 annually, there's a $100 or $1,000 additional non-recurring fee that's paid one time for those particular locations.
Got it. Good, thank you, sir. Any other questions?
How many poles will you be installing exactly?
Initially, there will be about 50 of them,
Right.
and over half of them will be municipal poles,
Okay.
based on some prior discussions we've had.
And do you plan on, I noticed that they have the fee in here for $1,000 for new poles. Is there a plan to install brand new poles? Or are you talking about strictly installing on existing poles, the 50 initially?
The 50 initial are all on existing structures.
Okay.
Now, I say that, but some of the utility poles, depending on the condition of the pole, if the pole needs to be replaced, then it will be replaced, but it will be in the same location where the
Okay.
existing pole is, and then we would attach our antenna facilities to it.
Okay, thank you.
We're good? Any other questions?
Just one more quick one. About how many antennas are you looking to install?
Over the course of a few years, you mean?
Yes.
So that can change as the demand changes. So I never like to say it'll be this number and then 5 years from now that number is different. It depends on the demand that comes into the system. But for right now, it will be about 200.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Good. Thank you. Thank you for coming into the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much for your time, appreciate it.
Okay, also, on the agenda, you'll see establishing standards for small wireless facilities in the public right-of-ways, City of Wilkes-Barre, and that's concerning what we just spoke about.
Right.
We have a couple of new items I'd like to get into, please. These are, and I'm going to turn this over to Attorney Tim Henry, but they are specific to the ordinance changes that we talked about at the last meeting that Mr. Solicitor Carl Frank spoke to the Audit General, and these are recommendations that were worked out through the Auditor General's office and our solicitor. So I'll let Mr. Henry take over.
Yeah, this is pretty simple. You guys saw the audit report. There was essentially 5 findings in there. One of them was more of a clerical pension issue, and now that that's been resolved, it turns out the city's owed money. I think we're owed about $10,000. So one of them was just that. And the other 4 were related to older ordinances, where if you worked for one union for a period of time, left that job, and went and were employed by another union, you could buy back the time that you know, if you had your first 5 or 10 years with a different union. That was challenged at one point. It was ruled that you can't do that. So in 2003, 2 of those ordinances that were subject to the arbitration were repealed back then. Right. There's still these 2 hanging out, the 2 that are on your agenda tonight. So we're going to repeal those at the recommendation of the Auditor General. We'll send all this stuff back to them when we're done. Continue to communicate with them. Hopefully this is it. I can't guarantee you this is it, but we're working on it. If there is anything else that we need to do, we'll certainly do it, but we know we absolutely need to get this done.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Any questions for Mr. Henry? Very good. Thank you.
That basically covers my items tonight.
But you have
Mayor, you have
one more, an appointment to the zoning board?
Where's that at? Oh, okay, sorry, it was buried in here. Thank you, Tony. This is a reappointment, by the way. I know, Tony, you had asked us in the past to have these people here. Well, what situation, it's a reappointment.
Okay.
We already know, but anyway, what we're asking for is reappointment of Mr. Edward DeMichael, and on the Wilkes-Barre Zoning Hearing Board. The term will expire 2/11/26. So like I said, it's a reappointment, and hopefully you'll be.
Mayor, is he chairman? I know he was. Is he chairman?
I don't think, they rotate them, so,
Yeah, I didn't know whether he was still,
yeah, they rotate them.
oh, okay, so he wouldn't be as of this year anyway.
Yeah, he might have been last year, so he may or may not be this year, I don't know, but they rotate him on an annual basis.
And there's several positions that we have open if people want to apply for some of these boards or authorities. I would welcome their application. We made a change now. They used to send the applications into city clerk's office. They should now go directly to my office, and Tyler and Lisa will make sure that, you know, we get them to review. So that's another change that we're hoping will, you know, help out. So we do have openings. If you have anyone you want to recommend, or anyone that hears this tonight that wants to actually put on, they can go on our website and they'll see the different boards and authorities and hopefully apply for that.
Good.
Any questions?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we will adjourn for a, oh, council presentations, you're right. Yeah, council presentations. Councilman Barrett?
I'm glad we're moving forward with the 5G and the other initiatives of Verizon. I think this is all great. But it brought to mind, I drove down a street the other day in the north end section of Wilkes-Barre, but it's all over, especially rental properties, multi-unit rental properties that might have 6 or 8 or 10 cable dishes, or not cable, television satellite dishes on the roof. It looks like a lot of times what's happening is people are leaving, somebody else comes in, they subscribe to a new service, and they don't remove the old ones. And I mean, it's amazing that like the roofs are covered with them, and I think it's, I know it's not something, I don't think we can legislate that you have to remove, but it just, it's kind of amazing that people would leave those devices on their roof and somebody else would come in. I don't think it's something we can legislate when you have all this inactive stuff out there, but it looks a little bit unsightly to say the least. And just a comment, a quick comment about that. And I know there's nothing to do with cable. It's just satellite dishes when people leave and somebody else moves in and they throw another satellite dish on the roof. But I have nothing else additional, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Belusco.
I'd like to give a shout out to our DPW guys. And Butch, DPW did one heck of a job. And I'm actually getting people calling me to tell me that. They did an excellent job. We had over a foot of snow, and before you know it, the roads were wet. So kudos to them, and thank the guys for me and from council, if you would. The other thing on that, we used an awful lot of salt. Where do we stand? Are we okay with salt? Are we going to get through the year all right?
Councilman, yeah, we're good. We were very fortunate, as you can recall, if you can recall, the last couple of winters were not necessarily heavily used a lot of salt. But we were able to stockpile a lot of salt. You're almost mandated to fulfill your order, which we do every year, so we saved what we could save. And it's just recently now that we're using our 2021 salt. So long story short is we have salt in the shed. We're good for a few more storms, and we have about another 600 to 700 ton on order, which is not even half of what our 2021 order was.
Thank you, Butch. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Marconi.
I do. I echo Mr. Belusco, his comments with DPW on that last snowstorm, the large one. They did a great job, Butch. It was really refreshing. So kudos to them as well. I did speak with Butch, and I sent some emails out to Charlie. They are being taken care of. I just want to thank them for that. However, right before I was coming down, guys, I got another pothole complaint. I don't know if you want to jot it down here. It's on East Main Street. It's right across the street from the Miners Mills gas station. I did take a quick run up there. It's pretty big. If you guys could take a look at that, I'd appreciate it. And then last, Mr. Mayor, you were talking about real estate. It just, how are we doing with our real estate in the city? I know you were, looking to sell some lots and stuff like that. I know earlier in the year we were really going, it was going very, very well. I was just wondering if you can give us a quick update on that, please.
Sure. We have sold several lots, but they're the ones that we've come to you for your permission to sell. But something new we're going to be starting, we have grant monies that have been made available to us, and we'll be doing an RFP seeking a real estate firm that will be able to come in and actually take over the job of selling them for us. Okay, the monies that will be paid to the real estate agency or firm, once again, paid for by a grant. It will not cost the city a dime, but what we want to do is two things. I firmly believe that there's properties out there that we don't even know the city owns, okay? I want to make sure that we get a database, and that's one of the things that this company will do, is explore what properties, vacant lots, other properties are owned by the city. And then secondly, they will take responsibility for being the people that actually sell these properties for us. Okay, right now we put them on our website, but I think we can be more aggressive because that's what they'll get paid to do. So there will be an RFP coming out. I spoke to Joyce Zukowski about that this week. So John, to answer your question, we're going to be getting more aggressive, just like the lot we talked about on Westminster Street. Want to get that off of our ownership and put it back on the tax rolls. So we'll be getting more aggressive because I think there is some revenue there.
Thank you, appreciate it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilwoman McBride?
Mr. Chairman, if I can interrupt 1 second, I just want to go back on what the mayor was just speaking about, if it's okay with you.
Yes.
I know when we sell a property, you talked about the vacant lot on Westminster Street as an example. It would come before us, the sale of the property, and we always inquire as to what the intended use of that would be. And we don't want to lose that particular control. I think that's very important, whether it's a fit for the neighborhood, just because somebody wants to come in and buy a property makes an offer.
Bill, you'll still have to approve the sale.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that that part stays as
No,
intact as it is.
that won't change. All this person will do is they'll list it. If someone wants to see it, they'll take them out to show it to them. But it's still going to come down to my desk. I'll come before you. You'll have to approve it for the reason that it's being sold. I'll give you an example. Might be an empty lot that's not buildable. Maybe the house next door wants to enlarge their lot. You know, that because it's not buildable, that's a no-brainer, in my opinion. Gets back on a tax roll. But all they're going to do is take away and be more aggressive in marketing, but also give us more of an idea. If there are any empty lots out there or properties that the city owns, let's market them. Let's get rid of them. So you still have to approve it, Bill, and you'll have the reasons for that before you approve it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, will they be doing the appraisals on them?
Well, yeah, what we can do is it'll be a full service, okay? But one of the important things, I think, is to do the search out there, you know. And I can't say in the past if anyone's ever done that before. Darren, I don't know, you may know that. I don't know that, if anyone's ever gone back and searched records to see what's owned by the city. But we're going to get that done, hopefully, and then we'll be selling some of these things.
Okay.
Yeah, and searching for properties, obviously we've been acquiring them for decades. And they're not always titled the same way. Sometimes it'll be the city of Wilkes-Barre, sometimes it'll be Wilkes-Barre City.
Right.
So, yeah, like tracking down every single one is quite a challenge because they're not all indexed under the exact same name.
Got it. Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Sorry
you.
to interrupt.
Okay, Councilwoman McBride.
Just a couple of things. Number one, there's still a missing sign on the corner of Howard and South Sherman Street. And there's also, I know Butch is aware of the water issue on Howard and South Sherman as well. If we could just get an update on that. And then just one question regarding the proposed dual recycling. I'm happy that we are hopefully going to dual recycling. I'm very happy about that. I'm happy that we will be using a local business to do so. I have gotten complaints in the past regarding this business using South Empire Street as a throwaway for their garbage trucks. And some residents are concerned that that's going to happen even more so now if they do get this recycling deal. So can we just reiterate to this business that they're not supposed to use South Empire Street for their trucks?
Which I think we spoke about that, didn't we? Do you want to address that?
They are still doing it now as it stands, so like I said, I'm happy that we're using a local business, but that does need to be addressed because residents are complaining to me about this.
If we have this done deal, we have discussed this with Solomon already, and although it's very difficult for us, unless it's enforced all the time to control Kingston and Edwardsville and all the other ones who come that way, I know that, other trucks will. We will tell our people to use another route.
Okay.
Empire Street, there's a section of Empire Street that we talked about recently, that needs to be upgraded and paved. And, we're gonna do our level best this year with our 2021 budgets to see if we can't get that done as part of the community development block grant taking program or some other funding source. That will certainly help the people there because the complaints we get, they're loud, noisy, bumps, it could be an issue. So we'll direct our vehicles to go a different way.
Okay.
And I think also Plains, they also use Solomon, so that's another larger municipality that also uses it. It might be their trucks.
Yeah, just, whoever it is, just please ask them to stop and use Frederick Street. That's the street they're supposed to use.
Okay, we'll be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Good, thank you. Okay, we'll adjourn the work session
Mr.
for...
Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I just have one other statement.
Sure.
As usual. Again, since we're having combined sessions ever since we went virtual, if there are no objections from council by unanimous consent, will council approve the 4 resolutions to be voted on as a consent agenda? Any objections?
Any objections? No?
Okay,
None?
then we'll have a consent agenda on one vote on the 4 resolutions.
Great. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ryan. We'll adjourn the work session.
Almighty and everlasting God, who presides over all things in heaven and earth, come and preside over these deliberations, so that those that make the decisions may be guided by your wisdom.
Roll call, Mr. Ryan.
Mr. Barrett.
Here.
Mr. Valeska.
Here.
Mr. Marconi.
Here.
Mrs. Gilbert McBride.
Present.
And Mr. Brooks.
Here.
Also in attendance tonight is Mayor George C. Brown, Controller Darren Snyder, Administrator Charles McCormick, Director of Operations Butch Frotty, City Attorney Tim Henry, IT Director Frank Hirschberger, Assistant City Clerk Catherine Payne, and Administrative Assistant Lisa Sanfilippo. Good evening and welcome to all. Tonight's meeting is a regular session of City Council. According to the First Amendment, this meeting is a limited or designated public meeting as all regular sessions of City Council are. The chairperson is the presiding officer of the meeting. As a City Council meeting, specific rules and procedures of council are followed. The list below are examples of important council rules. They are not intended to be a complete list. Persons addressing the council shall limit their address to 5 minutes. All remarks should be addressed to the council as a body and not to any individual member thereof. No persons are allowed to address the council from beyond the rail except the speaker at the dais who has the floor. It doesn't apply now. Preservation of order. The chairperson shall preserve order and decorum, prevent attacks on personalities, or the impugning of members' motives. The chairman shall determine all points of order, and no person except city officers or their representatives shall be permitted within the rail in front of the council during any meeting without the express permission of council. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Welcome to the February 11th voting session for City Council. Are there any members of the public at this time who would like to call in on pending legislation? That would be, if you were watching the work session, anything that we were discussing on the agenda during the work session, you may call in now on pending legislation.
Yeah, Bob Kalabowski. I just wondered, when I heard you talking about the Auditor General, is that something I could talk to right now about?
It'd be related to the,
You're trying to straighten some problems out there?
it would be related to the Auditor General's report, and us
Can't
cleaning.
hear you, sir.
It's
Can't
related
hear
to
you.
those two ordinance, Bob. The ordinance to clean up our former ordinances to be in line with the Auditor General's recommendations. So it's about,
You're really muffled. There's something wrong. Is your technician there? Can't hear you.
On the two ordinances that are before council that are repealing ordinances to clean up, you know, what they need to do for the auditor's report.
Okay, well, is that something I could bring up now about maybe we could finally get to the bottom of this part-time service towards a full-time pension?
no, you can bring that up later.
No, that's later.
Okay, hey, and if you could, pass it on to the administration there when the people are talking back there. Would you ask them to talk into the microphone, because you just can't hear them, if possible. Okay, I'll call back. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Bye.
Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Sam Troy, Wilkes-Barre.
Go ahead, Mr. Troy.
On the agenda items, I'm actually calling about an item I think is on there concerning the choice by the mayor of the auditing firm, Axelrod, I think it is, accounting firm, right? They're auditing, one or the other. That is on the agenda, correct?
Yes.
I would just like to know a couple of details about that, if possible, from the mayor or whoever. I assume the mayor chose that on his own. I just wondered if that firm has done the external auditing, has done the books the last several years, or is this a new choice? $60,000, I think, is the price tag, which seems to me a little bit high. I know years ago at Wilkes-Barre School Board, they had a forensic audit there that was done for less money than that. I thought forensic audits were run higher than a regular external audit, but I could be wrong about that. It's done for about $40,000 or $50,000 and proved to be worthless. But anyway, I just wondered if that item, that proposal of the mayor's, I assume it's the mayor's, should be put out. Should there be an RFP for that? Since it is something that's going to affect the budget and something that maybe there's a place that could save money there. And also, is that a higher figure than before the last few years? Is there a chance to, if we choose another, if we do put it out for bid and reject this thing, if the council does reject it, would there be a possibility to put on an RFP, or is that just not the way it's done? I'd appreciate if somebody could give me some answers on that. That's all I have regarding the agenda.
Mr. Henry will respond.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's done by RFP or not, to tell you the truth. It may be, but it doesn't have to be. It's a professional service, so it doesn't have to be RFP'd. Now, maybe the mayor or Charlie, or even you, Darren, might know a little more about this than I do, but I believe what happens is we get a firm that does our auditing, and they do it for a period of years. Is it 2 or 3 years? And then after that, we're required to get a new entity to do it. So there are regs that govern this. So I suspect, is this the last year for Axelrod? Because they did it last year. So I think this may be their final year, and next year we will have to get a new firm to do it. As far as the price, I think that's basically the same price, almost every year, right around $60,000. And it certainly is a lot of work to audit all of the city's books and numbers over the year. And maybe the mayor or Darren could tell you more than that.
Sam, as far as I can what I've been told is we did get other estimates to do it. This is a firm that did it last year, as Tim Henry said, and the firm was actually lower cost than the other estimates that we got. So they did it. I mean, Mr. Snyder, you can tell me if you think the audit was a success or not, because that's your forte. But from what I saw, it looked like they did a great job. Recommended by Brett Kittrick, our finance director, and they did do it last year or two, and the price was actually lower than the bids that we got from other companies. Okay?
Thank you. Good. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Ryan?
Okay, the consent agenda is first up for four resolutions combined into a consent agenda. Motion, second, and vote.
Motion.
Bill, second.
Second.
John? Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belusko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, the ordinances are going to be voted on individually. The first one is the second and final reading of number 3 of 2021 entitled Recycling. Motion, second, and vote.
I'll motion.
Second.
Mike and Beth. Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belusko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Motion passes. Secondly, we have adopting a cable franchise agreement with Comcast. This is number 4 of 2021, first reading. Motion, second, and vote.
Motion.
John, second.
I'll second.
Tony? Or Mike?
Mike.
It was Mike.
It was Mike? Okay. Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belusko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next is the ordinance establishing standards for small wireless facilities in the public right-of-way in the city of Wilkes-Barre. That's number 5 of 2021, first reading. Motion, second, and vote.
Motion.
Mike? Second?
I'll second.
Bill? Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belusko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Motion passes. And then we have the final two that were discussed earlier. One is repealing file of council number 11 of 2001 and amending file of council number 26 of 1976. First reading on that. Motion, second, and vote.
Motion.
Bill?
Second.
John? Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belusko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Motion passes. Finally, we have an ordinance repealing file of council number 13 of 2001 and amending file of council number 43 of 1976. Motion?
I'll motion.
Mike? Second?
Second.
Bill?
John.
John? Sorry. I saw Bill's hand go up. Okay, Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belusko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Motion passes also. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
Ryan.
I'm sorry, we have also minutes, separate voting on the minutes that have been submitted for this month or for this 2-week period. Motion, second, and vote.
Motion.
John? Second.
Second.
Bill? Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belusko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Motion passes also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any remarks from council members? Councilman Barrett?
Nothing additional. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Belusko?
Nothing more today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Marconi?
We're good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and Councilwoman McBride.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Now is public discussion. Any members of the public who'd like to call in to discuss any item, please call in now.
Bob Kalabowski. I'm calling from my kitchen. I'd like to ask, maybe for the mayor, on behalf of the citizens who think the same way I do on certain issues, if while we're doing something with this auditor thing, why can't we put in there to get to the bottom of this, how these council people all these years were able to count that part-time service towards full-time pensions, and also why they're allowed to get all these benefits? And if it wasn't for me bringing up, and Beth, it's nothing against you personal, it's the issue. If it wasn't for me pounding this issue, Beth Gilbert would be getting another $42,000 this year. And as you know, Councilman Belushko refused to give up his health care. That's another $11,000 or $15,000. And Tony, our version of Benjamin Franklin, is taking the buyout, or takes that buyout and uses it to make himself look good, which I think it's appalling. But Mayor, if you possibly could, maybe put Attorney Henry onto this, to draft a letter to see what we have to do to stop this pilfering, how they're able to use that part-time service towards these pensions. And I told you, I only have an 8th grade education, and my figures might have been off. I think it's costing us almost $200,000 a year for these people who were able to pad their pensions with their part-time service. So maybe if you are doing something with this Auditor General thing or this audit, that we could finally get to the bottom of this. And I think you would be probably the biggest hero to the taxpayers of the city. You could possibly stop this, what I call pilfering of the taxpayers with this part-time service thing. People that hear this and see it when you explain it to them are appalled. So if you could possibly have City Attorney Henry look at, draft some type of letter to get this, to bring it to a close. And remember when I talked to Attorney Frank, he said, I asked him how they could possibly do it, and he said, look, until somebody tells us illegal, we're going to keep doing it. And that's how it's been working. Now, also, if I could bring up, I'd like to know how much Jim Ryan gets an hour for overtime. And is the city clerk's position like a lifelong position, like the Supreme Court, where you just stay forever? And if we do get rid of him someday, we should be able to do it, get somebody in there to do it a lot cheaper, because I think over $100,000 a year for his job with his benefits and stuff is outrageous. Also, recall about 2 years ago, I was basically almost drug out of council because I used a profanity, and I was only repeating what a councilman said that I overheard in the hallway. I want to know if Mr. Belushko is going to apologize to a taxpayer, a landlord, and someone who does care about the city, and you may not agree the way he presents himself, but he was referred to twice as an asshole. So I'm just wondering if Mr. Belushko is going to apologize to do that, and if the council...
Gone. There will be no profanity at these meetings, and I apologize to my colleagues for, again, what Mr. Ryan so aptly read that is not supposed to happen on these matters. Next call.
State your name and where you're from. State your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, my name is Jason Carr. I'm calling from Manhattan, New York City. I just have a couple questions tonight. Mr. Chairman, has an invitation been extended to the Pennsylvania Auditor General? And if there has been, has the Auditor General accepted an invitation to visit Wilkes-Barre City Council
regarding the audit violations of the city pension plans, as well as other issues that have been brought up in recent meetings. As well, Mr. Chairman, on January 23rd, 2021, in an article in the Times Leader regarding the overtime being paid to the city clerk and the assistant city clerk, it was stated, and you were quoted, that the administrative code trumps the collective bargaining agreements, according to an illegal opinion in 2003. You stated that the matter was resolved. Can you clarify for the general public tonight, the taxpayers, the citizens of Wilkes-Barre, are Jim Ryan and the assistant city clerk receiving overtime for attending tonight's meeting? And if so, in your own words, that the administrative code trumps the collective bargaining agreement, why haven't you taken care of it? Thirdly, I would like to know, does City Council consider it a conflict of interest that the Assistant City Solicitor is the sister-in-law of the union president who represents members inside City Hall? And fourthly, I would like to know, what is Darren Snyder, the controller, an elected official for the city of Wilkes-Barre, doing to correct the item of overtime being paid to the clerk and the assistant clerk? Does he have any comment? What actions has he taken to correct it, as it has been stated that by yourself, Mr. Chairman, that the administrative code trumps the collective bargaining agreement, according to a legal opinion in 2003? Thank you so much.
Again, as Mr. Ryan had aptly pointed out, there are not to be personal attacks, or personal directed questions. We are to be addressed as a body as a whole. And I will not comment on any personnel matters with the city. As respect to the Auditor General, I think Mr. Carr should be pleased that this body has moved forward with the help of the mayor's office in correcting their recommendations in their last audit report. Next question.
Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, this is Bob Kalabowski calling back again. And before you hang up on me, I want Tony to explain to me how Mr. Belusco could use that word twice, and I'm only repeating what he said, while my rights to freedom of speech are being, why I'm hung up on before my presentation's finished. Now, Mr. Belusco cursed.
Mr. Kalabowski.
It went over
Mr. Kalabowski.
It was twice that he referred to that.
We're not going to go into that again. Does anyone have any comments? You have another call? Sounds good. All right, thank you everyone for this evening. Motion to adjourn.